Got him! Great! Wow! The winner of the match, and still. Tell me when I'm telling lies!
Let me in.
Hey, it is Toxic Reign Scandal, featuring TBK, the Turnbuckle King himself. We got another good one for you guys tonight. In this one, it's about another match behind the scenes. What went wrong with this match? I am talking about why did TNA World Championship match go Awry? And this is the match of Sting versus Jeff Hardy for the TNA World Championship back in 2011. So this is what the match is about. Let's talk about it, and let's talk about it. We're going to talk about the infamous 2011 TNA Victory Road match. We thought it would be a Jeff Hardy versus Sting classic, but it ended up turning into a debacle. We are going to get you to see the locker room. We're going to talk about this particular match behind the scenes. And with that being said, let's air their dirty laundry. Now, we know that Sting was the TNA World Champion going into this match. We thought, like I said, it would be a classic, but it was memorable for the wrong reasons. Thing about it is, Jeff Hardy Sting match goes shockingly wrong. We knew that it was something. They knew if you watch the event, something was wrong with Jeff Hardy. The energy, we know his music come out, the aura is all lit, but he appeared, they said, through the curtain 45 seconds to be exact, right before the music hit, meaning he barely made it in time for his match with the World Championship match. And they said that he was just not himself. He wasn't the normal charismatic enigma. He was just not in tune. And then, Sting came with his entrance. Everything was normal with Sting's entrance. But they said the commentators at TNA went over the match, tried their best to distract us by hyping it up, not have so much focus on Jeff while he was off. But everyone at TNA kept it professional. And even though they knew something was off, they tried their best because they know there was a pay-per-view match that people paid money for. And it's not just the ones who was there live, but also the ones who paid for it through the pay-per-view. And also they said that it was still awkward and people was very concerned about Jeff Hardy's well-being. Now, what people don't know is during this match of Jeff Hardy versus Sting for the whole World Championship match, they said that that according to Bischoff, they said that Hardy had spent over a minute teasing the crowd whether to throw a shirt or not, and pretty much he was trying to distract everything. The thing about it is, this is where I think it was a big mistake. Now, Jeff, according to Eric Bischoff, they said that Jeff Hardy, the champion, he came to the event exactly. He came to the mandatory talent call time of 11 o'clock, but he was disappearing for hours, which during the time, that's when he was presumably drinking and using substances. He was using substances, drugs and stuff like that. And they said he wasn't seen again until moments before his match. That's why he appeared 45 seconds before the curtain. And it also said that Bischoff was waiting in a gorilla position to confront Hardy about him missing. But at the moment, everyone had discovered Jeff Hardy was not himself. Now, Dixie Carter, who ran TNA at the time, she was not in a gorilla position at the time. No, nor was anybody else in that position of power. Eric Bischoff called an audible, and he told both participants, which is Sting and Jeff Hardy, while trying to cut an impromptu promo to end the match with Sting when as quickly as possible, hence why the match ended the way it did so quickly. That's the thing about it, because you could tell Sting was pissed off. He was pissed off. But it said that Bischoff had also had that Hardy had been discovered 45 minutes sooner. If he had been discovered 45 minutes sooner before the match, TNA would have been more than likely to find a replacement for Jeff Hardy during the match and inform everyone, like, hey, Jeff Hardy's not in any condition to compete in the match. But because of time constraints and talent was already been out there for their ring gear, and it was time for the main event, they left the ring. There was nobody, around. Everyone had left the arena altogether. The crew and Gorilla was left with no choice but to let Hardy compete and end the match quickly as possible. That was the name of the game. Since Hardy was missing for hours, even though he showed up at 11 o'clock for talent call time. See, Hardy was smart. He knew to show up just in time, but he still was going to, drink and get high, do whatever. He was missing all the way into the time for his main event match. Because since he was the main event match, Jeff Hardy knew that was the end of the event, the pay-per-view, and he had time to do whatever. So it was a lot of time in between. They had no choice but to let Jeff Hardy compete. Because the fans, it was a main event, a world championship match at that, and they didn't want to, upset the fans that was there live or paying at home. So they, people paying to see an event. But, critics, they heavily gave a very bad review of this match, saying it was one of the worst professional wrestling events in recent history, and it was. To be a world championship match at a pay-per-view, especially of the caliber of Sting, the legend, Jeff Hardy, of course, of his name, it definitely was going down as one of the worst. And the thing about it is that Jeff Hardy was sent home regarding this. They said too after it, they said that Sting hit the Scorpion Death Drop and forcefully pinned him to win the 88 seconds. That's why Sting was so upset during that match. And Sting, they said, exiting the ring, Sting responded to chants from the fans because he knew fans was upset. We knew that it was upset. And he said that the fans who were outraged at the length of the match, Hardy's condition, it was clear he was completely unfit to wrestle. Fans was chanting, they were, I quote, that was BS, and Sting walked to the ramp and turned to him and said, I agree. Isn't that crazy? Sting didn't have no shocker, but he knew that this match was on the worst of all time. He made the list, right?
You just made the list!
And later, TNA apologized to the fans for the pay-per-view falling short of their standard, and they offered 6 months free access to a TNAOnDemand.com library to anyone who bought the event. And also, following this whole debacle at Victory Road, Jeff Hardy, as a result, was sent home from the Impact tapings the following week, and subsequently was written off the next month of TNA programming. And then it was later reported that Hardy was considered fine throughout the day. It was only moments before his match that he had deemed unable to complete. Hardy had been, of course, abusing drugs and alcohol and completed a 120-day rehab during his time away from TNA. But Jeff Hardy came back later, said that he had hit rock bottom with Victory Road. He was on the road to recovery. This was September 8th. And and he said that he would make his return to TNA, and he did return at September, because this match will happen in March 13th, 2011. And this was at Orlando, Florida. So this was very, very bad, guys. We know Jeff was drugged all the way up. He could not move. He couldn't do anything. Jeff was just definitely not himself. What he did was stupid, just flat out stupid during the whole endeavor. It was just stupid. No excuse.
Kingston jaw and face planted.
It was no way he was in shape or form. Figure 4 TV, salute to you. Jeff Hardy, it was disgusting. I can't even. I've seen that match plenty of times, and it's terrible. It is terrible, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. It was just no way, shape, or form. And I agree, Jeff Hardy shouldn't have been out there doing that match. He had no business being out there. And I wish it didn't go down, but unfortunately it did. And that's just something we can't change. But Eric Bischoff was basically forced to a corner, because Jeff Hardy was such in a bad condition that he could not literally do anything to compete. Now, people said that he was fine and stuff. You gotta remember, when Jeff was drinking, and of course, doing drugs, getting high, that stuff, if he probably was fine at the time, but you gotta remember, if you're drinking and getting high, it's not going to kick in after a while. So probably to kick in until right before his championship match, against Sting for the TNA World Champion. This TNA Championship, Sting was the champion, and Jeff Hardy was the challenger. So it was just a disgusting thing. It was an ugly look. Like I said, Eric Bischoff, he thought he was doing the right thing because we know that he called an audible. We know that he had nobody else to replace Jeff Hardy, and he was the only one in charge to do it. And people got on Eric Bischoff too for making such a terrible decision to have Jeff Hardy go out there and compete. But there was nobody else. Everybody was gone. It was the main event. It was just done unprofessionally, and fans were just upset. They were just upset. They was not feeling it at all whatsoever. Just not feeling the match. And I can't blame them for that. This was supposed to be a world championship match at a pay-per-view. This was supposed to be a classic, and it ended up being a dud of all the stuff that went down. It was supposed to be a classic. It went from this to this, and then to this, and to that. It was just a disappointment, to say the least. But you guys in live chat and playback, let me know what you think of this classic match you remember. And I mean classic as in being a disaster. Classic disaster, I call it. I mean, it was just horrible. I mean, if you guys remember this match.
Got him! Great! Wow! The winner of the match, Mantell!
You could tell that it was a rush finish. You could tell the announcer was shocked how it went down. But fortunately, that's the way it went. Now, there are a few interviews here. I talked enough about it in my end. I'll react a little bit more to after these interviews. We have 3 interviews. You got Matt Hardy, his own brother, speaking on this. Brian Hebner. I believe that's Earl's son. Brian Hebner, who refereed the match right here next to Sting, and Dutch Mantell. They all speak on this match back in 2011. TNA Victory Road, Jeff Hardy versus Sting. So I'll get that up right now. Let's get this going of the interview. Let's see what these other people have to say about this whole thing, because we know this is one of the biggest disasters of all time. Definitely one of the biggest disasters of all time. So Matt Hardy's we're gonna hear from him first and see what he had to say regarding his brother, Jeff Hardy. And I will react, of course, after.
Friday, wherever you get your podcasts, and at extremehardy.com.
Now, as we know, this is Victory Road. Victory Road is the infamous pay-per-view where your brother is not in the right state of mind, and he has the disastrous main event with Sting. Did you take any periphery heat from everything that was going on with your brother? And did TNA, as an environment, enable him in any way at that place and time?
I didn't take any heat because of his actions. I remember when someone said, "Oh my God, he was struggling to go through Gorilla." I was like, "Oh my God." So I remember I was back. I just showered from my match, whatever, and I'd seen Jeff, and he was fine. 30 or 45 minutes earlier or whatever. I was like, "All right, have a good man, kill it. I'll come out and watch." And then I like got out there and saw it after he was in the ring. I saw that from a monitor backstage. As far as them enabling it,
whether indirectly or directly, was the environment.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to say, but because it was one of those deals where he was a big star, and like there was a drug testing policy, and there's probably been times where people after work had seen him in a state he shouldn't have been in. So he definitely probably felt he could relax his body and then go out there and do it. But obviously he did not. He had taken too much of whatever it was he had taken that night. And it was disastrous, so that in some ways, I mean, he should have never been allowed to walk out through Gorilla, if he was in such a weird state of mind. And I remember hearing like there was people saying that he tried to push his way out, he wanted to get out, whatever, and like he really shouldn't have been allowed to get out there. But once again, it puts you in a really strange predicament. I mean, you got this match advertised as your main event, and like you're not sure where he's at or where he's going to be at in a few minutes. I don't know. Could they have? Possibly. Maybe not directly, but maybe indirectly.
So you did see your brother within the hour before the main event?
Yeah, probably 45 minutes before.
Because it's pretty well-told story from multiple people that they pretty much could not track him down the entire day. And even leading into the hour before and the minutes before, they had no idea where he was. And then I
saw him following my match.
Where did you see him?
Backstage. He came to me. He came to me following my match and just like checked in with me. Oh, okay, cool. And then maybe he went off and did his own thing then. I mean, there were so many different like trailers and different places that guys could hide. It was very, very chaotic and this sprawling area where guys could go back there.
And he seemed totally fine when you talked to him?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he was fine. He was fine when I talked to him. But between then and when he went to the ring, he had obviously taken more medication, which equated to him not being fine.
How did you feel after that incident?
Sad. Bad. I hated it for him. Just heartbreaking.
Yeah. Did you see the match as it was happening live?
I did. I got up to the monitor right as the match was starting when Eric was coming down. And
I know it probably seems like a blur to you, but do you have any recollections of real time what's going through your head?
It does seem like a blur in many ways. No, I just it was shocking. It's like one of those things where your heart drops to your stomach, and it's just like, it's just so devastating to watch, and you just hate it for him so bad. But it's what's happened, and now you have to deal with it.
So your brother's gone from the company; he's indefinitely gone, and now you're on your own, and you're not in the greatest state of mind either. Was his departure difficult for you?
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, we traveled together. We did everything together. So I'm sure it was. And it probably didn't help with my issues at that time as well. It probably made me say a little bit more of like, fuck it. I could kind of see that. Me mentally just saying like, oh, well, Jeff's not here, whatever, fuck it. That's kind of when you get in that fog of addiction anyway, that's kind of like the mentality you end up creeping into.
All right, that is Matt Hardy speaking on his brother Jeff Hardy on the 2011 incident of TNA Victory Road against Sting. He said that, which I agree, Jeff Hardy had no business being out there during that match. He had no business performing, and he said he saw his brother right before the match, 45 minutes, and he seemed fine. Everyone said he seemed fine. The thing about it is he was not fine because he apparently was doing and other stuff in the system, alcohol, you name it, and it led to the match being poor performance. Jeff Hardy embarrassed himself. He embarrassed TNA as a company, and he embarrassed Sting. So he disappointed a lot of people that night, and I'm pretty sure it's going down as one of the worst nights, not just in TNA's company history, but the worst night of Jeff Hardy, if not one of the worst Jeff Hardy, one of the worst nights of his career and his life, because he literally was drugged out. And Jeff Hardy said it too. He felt bad afterwards, saying Sting was one of his rivals, someone he looked up to as a kid, and he gets a dream match against his idol, which is Sting. And when it's time to step up, he blew it. So I know that really, really hurt Jeff Hardy. And of course, Sting was saying, he wasn't too pleased. He didn't speak too much on it though, but Matt Hardy said he was going through his issue at TNA. Thing about it is, Matt Hardy, he always traveled with Jeff. They always been on the road together. But I know that's his little brother, but Jeff Hardy is a grown man. Matt Hardy's a grown man. He can't be Jeff Hardy's babysitter for the rest of his life. Jeff got to be his own man, stand on his own 2 feet, just like Matt Hardy is on his own man, stand on his own 2 feet. Can't nobody babysit him at the end of the day. And I feel like that's always been a case between Matt and Jeff. It's crazy now because Matt Hardy is currently in TNA and Jeff is still in AEW. They're not even the same company anymore. Matt Hardy recently contract was up with AEW. He did not renew with the company. He decided to move forward and go back to TNA with the Wookiee character that he actually did start in TNA. So it's just funny how life works sometimes. Now, there's another interview of this whole Victory Road 2011 incident. This time, this interview will be from Brian Hebner, who was the referee in that match. I believe he's on the Hannibal TV talk about this match in an interview. So much credit to Hannibal TV, Matt Hardy, and other people that we'll cover regarding this interview. But we're going to hear from now Brian Hebner and see what he had to say regarding this match of course, Jeff Hardy and Sting.
I didn't even realize you were the ref of the Jeff Hardy match, so that was very interesting stuff to kind of get the behind the scenes of that.
Yeah, it was a really tricky moment to be in. Not one I'm most proudest of, but I mean, hey, things happen. It is what it is, and I think that we all dealt with it as professionals. And so I thought a little insight from my view, because I know that it's been talked about on many podcasts. I know it has, but it hasn't been talked through from the third man in the ring. And so I thought it would be a very interesting thing for people to hear and experience, through their visions, and just to see what it was like for me, and all the wrestlers that were involved, and some of like EB that was involved and things of that nature. So I think me and RG did a really good job of covering the night, and the day leading up to that night. So and that's what we're trying to do, is just get dig in, go backstory wise, and just start from there and let everybody know how it was.
Pretty unique to have that happen, just that situation, because you hardly ever see something like that. The big star, you don't know if he's quite with it or he's going to make it, and you and Sting seem pretty calm about it, but it's like, okay, we'll deal with it. But I mean, that's got to be a situation that never normally happens.
No, never. That would be the first, which is crazy for somebody who's been in the business as long as I have. But that was the first on that kind of stage, as far as being a pay-per-view main event. You just have to just go with the punches and do the best we can. So, and that's what we did. And I know it didn't come out the way people wanted it to come out, or, I don't know. It just, it was what it was, at that point.
Yep. Obviously Jeff was in a bad place then. He's in a better place now, for sure.
Oh yes. Yeah. And he's a good guy. None of the stuff I ever talk about was meant to be disparaging to him or anything like that. I mean, he's a great guy. And I feel like this was the wake up spot in his life, for him to maybe get himself together and turn his life around. And I'm just that was the first on that kind of stage as far as being
situation that never normally happens.
No, never. That would be the first, which is crazy for somebody who's been in the business as long as I have. But that was the first on that kind of stage as far as being a pay-per-view main event. You just have to just go with the punches and do the best we can. So, and that's what we did. And I know it didn't come out the way people wanted it to come out, or I don't know. It just it was what it was, at that point.
Yep. Obviously, Jeff was in a bad place then. He's in a better place now, for sure.
Oh yes, yeah, and he's a good guy. None of the stuff I ever talk about was meant to be disparaging to him or anything like that. I mean, he's a great guy, and I feel like this was the wake up spot in his life, for him to maybe get himself together and turn his life around. And I'm just very, very happy and humble for him, and just terrible feeling for him, because I know this is nothing he'd ever want to do intentionally. You know what I mean? This is just not the way he's built, the way he is. So once again, I just want to say, it's never nothing bad I'm saying. And, I was just telling the truth, and that's what my podcast is all about, is the truth. And it is what it is.
Yeah, you got to get that story out there. The third story for sure. Yeah, that's great. With Sting and that whole situation is going on, he seemed like oddly calm. Like, oh, we can handle it. We can, is that how he is normally? He's just like cool hand Luke.
Yeah, I mean, I've never seen him, and I've done many matches with him. I've never seen him freak out of a situation. He didn't out of this one either. He actually did try to, to continue on to see what we could get out of Jeff at that point in time, just to see if we could put something together for a main event pay-per-view for a world championship match. So, I mean, hats off to him. He tried. I tried. We me and him were communicating back and forth, and just, we just realized that at some point it just wasn't going to happen. It just wasn't going to happen. And it was a savior for everybody, for me, for Sting, and even Jeff, because you can't work under those unsafe conditions.
When that happens, I didn't even realize. I guess you didn't know Bischoff was going to come down, right? Like that was like kind of an ad lib on his part, right? It wasn't planned.
No, that was a definitely impromptu. And no, I think that was just a matter of, hey, I need to buy some time. I need to figure out what's going on. I need to figure out where Jeff's at. I need to figure out where you guys are at. I need to figure out what we can get out of this kind of thing. And I mean, I would just say another hats off, and I don't know how many I give off, but anyway, another hats off to EB, Eric Bischoff. Just handled it so professionally, and it was so calm. And I don't know if you ever went back and watched it or you saw it live or whatever, but I mean, he was not like stressed out and freaking out. I mean, he was very calm in his role, the way his character was. And I just thought it was a phenomenal job, and we bought some time. So that helped a lot.
I remember watching it live too. I went back and watched it too, but I remember watching it live and being like, something is off here. But you couldn't tell because it almost seemed like a wrestling storyline. Oh, Bischoff is coming in to do some sort of swerve, but then you saw Sting when he walked out, how mad he was. Like maybe that wasn't like you almost got a sense that it was a work, but then you're like, no, that was definitely real. That was crazy.
No, it was definitely real. It was trust me, it was definitely real. There was no work about that at all.
Yeah. But as a fan, when you first watching, you're like, wow, what is going on? Like, you're almost confused. Like, what the hell is going on out there? Yeah.
Thank you for watching the Hannibal TV. Please help me out and
all right, that is the end of Brian Hebner interview on that of Jeff Hardy versus Sting 2011. That was the interview. He talked about how he'd been in business all that time. He never witnessed anything like that. He said that he glad that Jeff was getting better now because he was at the time. He said he tried to do everything to work on that with Jeff Hardy, knowing that he wasn't in there. Also, he did clarify, which I stated earlier, that Eric Bischoff was not supposed to go in that match and call a no disqualification match. That was definitely a audible. As I stated earlier, Eric Bischoff called it. He was playing character. He's trying to talk Jeff Hardy. He really was telling Sting, make it a quick pin, and it's a no disqualification match. That definitely was not the plan going in. But he said that Eric was calm. Eric was doing anything. The thing about it is, Eric was calm because remember, he came from WCW. He came from another company that it was literally open mic night.
Who the hell told you tonight was open mic night, bitch?
Yeah, he came from that era. He came from, the Bash at the Beach match with Hulk Hogan. He came from the Finger Poke of Doom. He witnessed a lot of wild matches in his professional career as an executive. Eric Bischoff he was in the company when all that stuff was going on. So this pretty much of Jeff Hardy versus Sting. I don't know why I keep saying Matt Hardy, but right because he did the interview. Jeff Hardy versus Sting, this was light work to him. This was nothing. So when Jeff saw what was going on, he knew he had to do what he had to do. And there was another crazy match on the list of matches that he witnessed.
You just made the list!
So he already knew what the deal was going in. You guys hit that like button. Let's get the likes up. But yeah, Brian Hebner said that, people not getting Eric Bischoff credit. He kept it calm, played it cool. And he also said that, Jeff was trying to get better, and he's better now compared to that event years ago. But, the last incident he had was a couple years ago with the DUI, and that was the last live I covered on here a few days ago. But other than that, that was Brian Hebner, who was the referee in that match of Jeff Hardy versus Sting for the TNA Victory Road TNA World Championship match on the line. Sting is champion. Quick pin within a minute, 28 seconds, literally 90-second match. One of the fastest World Championship matches in history. Right down there under with Shane versus Daniel Bryan for 18 seconds. This match is down there with that too. Anybody is, we'll have another interview. And this time it is Dutch Mantell. We know Dutch Mantell is a legendary wrestling head. He's been a wrestler for many, many years. AKA Zeb Coulter from WWE. Has his own podcast, Story Time with Dutch Mantell. So salute to him. We will see what he has to say about this whole debacle between Jeff Hardy and Sting back in 2011. So let's see what Mr. Dutch Mantell has to say regarding this match. Justin Berry, salute to you.
Another guy that you don't hear that much about, but you saw the match on TV, was Sting. Jeff Hardy, not Sting. And they still have this match on YouTube. Jeff Hardy and Sting. When Bischoff was there. And he was so messed up. Now, I wasn't there then, but they tell me the story. They even questioned even having the match. And I think Bischoff went to the ring, and without a microphone, he just said, hey, this is what we're going to do, blah, 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 blah. And you could see Jeff there. He's wavering. He's like smoke going up. And the match lasted about 3-4 minutes. Awful.
If that.
Awful match. And anybody noticing that knew that something was wrong with him. But one time, even a year or so before that, we had Jeff to run. Supposedly, we had him, and we gave him this finish early on in the night. He got to run in the ring and help somebody. But this beatdown went on and on and on and on, and send Jeff. Well, we didn't know where he was. Send Jeff. And we went, now a bunch of us go flying, looking out to where Jeff could have gone to. I find him outside the studio in a car listening to music, and I beat on his window, and he said, yeah, man, yeah. I said, This was like 5 minutes after he was supposed to be there. And I said, man, you got to go in the ring now. They've been waiting on you for 5-10 minutes. Not that long, but I exaggerated a little bit. And he got up, went through the wrong door because that was the shortest door to go through. Went in and got in the ring and finished it. And then when they wanted to know where he was, I told him, I said, he's out there in the car. He's messed up. He didn't even know where he was or what he was supposed to do. And if it hadn't been for heels, he'd come in the ring and they attacked him and told him to hit me back. He didn't know where he was. But yet, they signed into this lucrative contract. So therefore, he was doing more damage than what he was doing good.
I mean, it's amazing
but yeah,
that TNA got away
I
with
didn't.
it.
Well, I didn't sign him. They did. I would have said, listen, if he's that bad of shape, I think we need to find homegrown talent and kind of do something with that, because this guy's, the guy was great. He was. Who was I just talking about? Hardy?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I forgot it. Jeff's the greatest guy in the world, the friendliest guy in the world, and probably the most hearted guy in the world. If he's straight, I mean, I have known never anybody say anything wrong about Jeff Hardy personally, because there's nothing to say wrong about. He's just, if you met him and he's straight, you'd like him. Everybody would like him because he's so nice. But when he gets peeled up and it starts hurting your business, it's time to have a little, let's go have a little come to Jesus talk. But they never did it. And I think we finally had to send him home. I don't know what that deal was. I never delved into it, but that's the problems that sometimes creative gets saddled with. And I don't care who was booking. I'll go back to what I said on my last show. I don't care if Quentin Tarantino was producing the show. He couldn't have helped out Jeff Hardy at that particular time in his life. He needed to go to rehab, which he's been to now for several times, yet he still has a problem with it. And of course, the end of that problem is something happen if they die, if they OD. And that's what WWE at least had the foresight to see. This guy has the possibility of dying on our watch. And see, they don't worry about just WWE. They worry about their advertisers. They worry about all the kids they sell at Christmas. And this guy dying of a drug overdose when he was such a huge star to kids, how's that going to affect us with our advertisers? Not good. So they said, well, we got to cut him loose before he cuts us.
Now, the funny thing is that they fired Jeff, now this off the top of my head, in 2003 for drug use, and I don't think he wants to go to rehab. Goes straight to TNA, who hire him, and then TNA fire him. Am I assuming TNA fired him eventually for drugs as well? And then he goes straight back to WWE in like 2008 or something.
See, well, he was a great of both worlds for Jeff. All he would have to do is tell WWE, okay, I went to drug rehab for 30 days. I listened to him. I'm better now. Oh, great. Start back. And when he starts back, he's great for about a month. And it's a little more and a little more and a little more, and they inherit the same problem they thought they'd gotten rid of.
All right, that's Dutch Mantell speaking on the infamous Jeff Hardy versus Sting 2011 Victory Road. He said, interesting, that he saw Jeff Hardy before he started the match with Sting. He said he was sitting in his car, and he said, people are looking for you. This was 5 minutes. So this explained why Jeff Hardy was getting in just in time through the curtain, which was 45 seconds too. He was trying to go through one door, as Dutch Mantell said, but he couldn't, and he ran right in. Now, he kept saying that Jeff Hardy's a good guy, genuinely good guy, but the thing about it is he couldn't stay off the alcohol and the drugs. And that's probably, and he also said some key too, this is why WWE didn't want to be bothered with Jeff Hardy anymore, because WWE, of course, is a publicly traded company. They got sponsors. They think about their fan base, and someone like Jeff Hardy, his condition and his state of mind, could ruin the reputation, not just himself, but the company, and possibly he could be something bad could happen to him on their watch, even go as far as passing away. And WWE did not want no part of that, which is why they let Jeff Hardy go ahead and they released him and let him walk away. He really got done a Jeff Rollins style, if you think about it.
Bye-bye, bitch. Bye-bye, bitch.
So that's what happened with Jeff Hardy back in 2009 when that happened. When WWE released him. But yeah, Dutch Mantell, I did not know that Dutch Mantell had witnessed Jeff Hardy outside his car while he's supposed to get ready for his main event match against Sting for the TNA World Championship at the pay-per-view in the main event. So that is very, very strange, because now we know, of course, he was under the influence, but he still shouldn't have been on the show. They could have done anything. They could have ran an angle where Jeff Hardy was attacked backstage and the match was qualification. They could have did anything. A better audible than what Eric Bischoff called, but that's his opinion on the whole thing. Ain't too much you could do about that, but they thought they did what was right for business at the time. Remember, Dixie Carter was nowhere in sight. You know, I think Jarrett was not there. He wasn't there speaking. He wasn't there to instruct what they should do with Jeff Hardy in the match. Eric Bischoff was the only one close to any position of power, and he did what Eric Bischoff always do. Controversy creates cash, as he stated. But you know, that's my opinion. But other than that, there is another interview, and this one is from, speaking of which, who was TNA founder at the time, the man himself, Jeff Jarrett, former TNA, former NWA World Champion, who speaks on his podcast, Jeff Jarrett My World, which he talks about, of course, the Jeff Hardy Sting match at the TNA Victory Road 2011. The debacle happened in his pay-per-view. I would like to see what Jeff Jarrett had to say regarding this whole issue, and he's speaking about this on his podcast, so I will get that up shortly, and then I'll react to that as well. Let's see what Mr. Jeff Jarrett had to say, and I will have pulled that up. Also, let's get the likes up. We got 17 people in here. Let's get the likes up.
Well, we know that there's going to be an ugly spot in Jeff's run. We've talked about this a little bit here and there. I know Eric and I have beat it up in great detail. I'm sure we'll do a watch along at some point. Victory Road 2011. Unfortunately, he's in no condition to perform in his main event against Sting. Bischoff calls an audible. We know what happens. Hardy gets suspended. He's gone until August. Man, this is when, if those quote-unquote demons, as we like to say in wrestling, were not apparent to everyone, they were that day. What do you remember about that evening and the fallout from that event?
You know what? I hadn't done this in a while. I don't know what my role was on the show. You may be able to Google it, but I do remember. Here's what I remember. Me and Karen had already left because we used to stay at the...
Correction, that's true. Jeff Jarrett was the original TNA founder, but at this particular point, following his own situation with the whole Karen Angle at the time situation, he was suspended and he was not in that position of power anymore. So that's why Jeff Jarrett was not seen. That's true. TNA, the old TNA, was such a thing of a past. You forget all stuff that was happening around that time. So I'll take that back. Jeff Jarrett, it definitely. That's why I want to hear what he had to say. Jeff Jarrett was not in no position of power like he was prior. You know, of course, in the early days of TNA. But back to, let's see what Jeff Jarrett had to say regarding the match. And Figure 4 TV said, LOL, there's a theory, can't rule it out. Right, you can't rule that out. Right. Well, let's see what Judge Jarrett had to say.
Had already left. Here's what I remember. I'm able to Google it, but I do remember. I don't know what my role was on the show. You may be able to Google it, but I do remember. Here's what I remember. Me and Karen had already left because we used to stay at the DoubleTree, literally right across the street from Orlando. And whatever our role was creatively on the show, we had already left, and I had gotten up into the room. Believe this, shocker, Conrad, I'd already opened a beer, but I got the call, first a text, then a call. Anyway, Russo, get over here now. And by the time I got over there, I'd already seen kind of the aftermath. And, mentally, I jumped to some conclusions. Now I've heard a couple of different versions of the situation, but I thought to myself, how the hell did y'all let him go through the curtain? Was my thought. But
you doggone right, Jeff Jarrett. How could you let Jeff Hardy go through that curtain knowing he was condition he was in? That I'm not a big fan of Jeff Jarrett, but that was undisputed what he said, and that's definitely awesome what he said. Definitely awesome. I don't get that at all. That show you that TNA back then had poor management. And honestly, I'm not a big fan of Jeff Jarrett, as I stated. But once he was out of that position of power regarding the whole Karen Angle situation, TNA was just going downhill, left to right, just going down. Let's continue on.
Very unfortunate. I felt bad, really, for everyone involved. I mean, and that includes Hulk, Eric, Dixie, obviously Jeff, the roster, the fans. Just it's one of those things that it's nothing good came out of that as far as from a show perspective. Personally, it's a part of Jeff's story and a part of his journey. Unless you have some deep valleys, it's impossible to have mountaintops. And this was a really bad valley.
And that is Jeff Jarrett speaking about the whole match of Sting versus Jeff Hardy. And like he said before, Jeff had no business going out into that match. And also, he felt bad for Hulk Hogan, Dixie, Eric, everybody else in management, because this match was supposed to be a legendary match. And it went from this to Sting looking at Jeff Hardy like, what are you doing? Go to Jeff being drugged, then it goes to Sting looking like, what is going on? So, yeah, this was definitely bad. I think, honestly, this match itself, we know Jeff Hardy as the charismatic enigma. We know him as being a former world champion. He was really, honestly, my opinion, despite the DUIs, I think this match took Jeff Hardy's career to a bad tailspin, very bad tailspin, and his career was never, ever the same again. And it was literally the match that ruined Jeff Hardy's career. I don't think he ever rebounded from this, because everyone looked at Jeff Hardy a certain way after this match. Now, he came back, he apologized to everyone. He stated later that he felt like he hit rock bottom, which he did. He did say he was going to come back to TNA full time. He took the rehab, did everything, but it's one occurrence after another. Now, he was at TNA for a few more years, I believe. He came back to WWE back in 2017 with his brother Matt. being a surprise entrance at WrestleMania 33 in a tag team match, which they won the championships. Then he recently left, 2021, I believe. AEW, another DUI. He takes time off. He just came back last year. He's pretty much been keeping his nose clean, been very quiet, as he should. But I believe this match will ruin Jeff Hardy's career. Jeff never really rebounded. If you notice, following this match, Jeff not only was not in the main event anymore, Jeff Hardy was never, ever, on record, he's never been a world heavyweight champion anymore. Not in TNA, especially not WWE, and not in AEW. He hasn't even getting close to the main event scene and close to any world championship, whether it was the TNA World Heavyweight Championship, whether it's the WWE Championship or the World Heavyweight Championship or the AEW World Championship. Jeff Hardy was never, ever the same regarding this whole issue, because he was just a shell of himself at that point, and he never rebounded. Like I said, all's forgiven with Jeff Hardy with TNA, but TNA got tired of him. I don't even think he could go back to TNA regarding, because remember, he had one previous run before he came back in 2010, and that run didn't go too well either for Mr. Jeff Hardy. And of course, WWE they may bring him back as a tag team, but we know Matt Hardy is in TNA right now as we speak. So Jeff Hardy it's been ruins for him. And it's sad because Jeff is so talented. We know him as the talented, charismatic enigma. We know him as the high-flying, taking a risk, daredevil that'll do anything and anything to put on a great show and to win. And he become, of course, world champion. But due to his DUI situation, due to his on-screen embarrassment of matches like TNA Victory Road 2011, he was just never able to rebound, and he never ever got back to prominence ever again. The most he did following being in the ring was being a tag team competitor, and that's it. And I don't even think you won the tag team championships like that again, except for when you did come back at WWE, as I stated earlier, at WrestleMania 33 back in 2017. Jeff Hardy has never been the same. I never seen his career elevate ever again. It's like, because not only that match ruined his chances of being in the main event, especially world champion, Jeff Hardy, by every company, does not trust him at all. He's not trusted and by any means, and he shouldn't be trusted, because and when Jeff Hardy is around, when they do want to take a chance with him, whether they put him in the main event, whether they put him against another top star or a legend like Sting, or put the world championship on him, he just failed again after again and again. It's just an occurrence of him failing, and then it becomes to the point with whatever company he's in, he becomes to be on the list.
You just made the list!
He's never, ever been able to get back to where he should. And luckily, honestly, with the body cam that I showed here for 2022 arrests, if you guys check that out on my channel here, I did highlight that body cam arrest back in Florida 2 years ago. Jeff Hardy's lucky he's with AEW at all. He's lucky they even want to deal with him, let alone get to the main event scene, and especially win a world championship of any company. He's lucky anybody want to deal with him, because with his reputation, he'll pretty much be like a Tessa Blanchard. You're blackballed from the industry. And once you blackballed, that's it. End of story. You can't finish your story. You instead your story would just be ended. So yeah, I believe this is the worst match. This match really took Jeff Hardy down, and it is one of the worst matches ever. As Dustin Mantell stated, it's one of the fastest matches ever. I believe it was 1 minute and 28 seconds, maybe 1.5 minutes to say the most. Now you could count it 4 to 5 minutes if you want to add Eric Bischoff going to the ring, talking to Jeff and Sting. You could add a couple minutes in addition to that. But other than that, the match was not long at all, guys. It was not long, to say the least, and it just ruined Jeff Hardy. He never, ever was the same again. He never was. I never saw him get anywhere close, like I said before. And it's sad because Jeff Hardy's a great talent. He was just too drugged up to perform in any shape or capacity. And he embarrassed TNA, he embarrassed himself, and he embarrassed his peers. So I mean, like I said, look at the anger on Sting's face. Sting, we know, is a nice guy. He just wasn't nice that night. He was so disappointed and so pissed off with Jeff Hardy. He wanted to rough him up himself and give him that kind of work for ruining this championship match and wasting everybody's time. He wanted to give him that kind of work. To be honest with you, that's the way he looked when he had what's going on. He should have got that work. If you think about it.
You about to get that work, son.
But Sting, try to cool the heads prevail. Sting did his best to be professional about the whole thing. Did his best to be professional about it. But Sting was not pleased. And you could tell Eric Bischoff was not pleased. And like I said, there was just nobody in sight. And you could tell TNA was running on autopilot that night. No DC Carter, no other management, just Eric Bischoff calling an audible. This is the man you had in charge, the man that was responsible for running WCW into the ground, the man that was responsible for not doing what's best for business for WCW. So you had him run the show. You already know results you're going to get with Eric Bischoff. But other than that, though, guys, there was nothing more that could be done that night. There was no talent, as they say. There was nobody to take Jeff Hart place in the match, as they say. But it could have definitely been handled a lot better. Nobody wants to see a world championship match when it comes to this. Nobody wants to see that. And this is not a storyline. I told you these wrestlers are not Juilliard trained actors. This is like a disappointed father looking at his son like, son, what are you doing? You are really disappointing me right now. That's the kind of look I got when I see Sting looking at Jeff Hardy. So Sting definitely disappointed big time with this whole particular match. So it was just never right. But to each his own. I'm glad that Jeff Hardy learned his lesson. I haven't heard no crazy match like that since then because they don't trust him, like I stated before. And Jeff Hardy already know that he's on his very last leg, especially with AEW. If he does do something else dumb or stupid for that matter, he know he's out the door and he can never, ever, ever come back to that company. No matter if you took the rehab, no matter if you are sobered up, they're getting tired of Jeff Hardy and this nonsense. So they're not going for that anymore. Like I said, everybody is hip to Jeff Hardy. All companies, AEW, WWE, TNA. I highly doubt he go to Japan at this point. I know he's still currently employed by AEW. I'm just saying other companies don't want to mess with him because of his bad reputation. They already know that he likes to dabble in alcohol and drugs. No matter how talented he is, drugs are drugs. Alcohol is alcohol. It can ruin anyone. It can ruin the best person in the world. It can ruin, especially already ruined person in the world. But Jeff Hardy was a result of what happens when you do take substance abuse, what happens when you do take things too far and you don't take your career as serious as you should. You go from being a world champion looking like $1 million at least, and you go to looking like a bum. And that's how he looked. So things were never ever right between Jeff Hardy and all these wrestling companies, honestly. But yeah, guys, this is Jeff Hardy versus Sting 2011 TNA Victory Road main event match, pay-per-view, TNA World Championship match. Sting is champion, defend the belt against Jeff Hardy a no disqualification called on the fly, so to say the least. And we were surprised when we saw Eric Bischoff come out here and he called it no disqualification. We pretty much got hit with one of these. Can't believe he said that.
Tell me you did not just say that.
And yes, Eric did say that. So it's just a bad situation. It literally went from bad to worse. As I'm glad the match, one thing they did do right, even though Jeff Hardy should have been out there in the first place, at least they ended the match very quickly, and they wanted to pretty much take the match at its own misery, to say the least. But yeah, guys, that's the whole thing regarding that situation. And it come down to just who can you put in your main event, who can you put at the top of your company. That's so important regarding the situation. A lot of that, of who you put in that forefront, makes a huge difference. Definitely big time. But other than that, guys, that's all I have pretty much regarding the situation. Why did TNA World Championship match go Awry? And we're talking about TNA 2011 Victory Road between Jeff Hardy and Sting. Let's get a recap. We heard interviews from multiple people. We first heard an interview we heard from Matt Hardy, his own brother. We heard from Brian Hebner, referee in the match. We heard from Dutch Mantell, and later Jeff Jarrett. And they all pretty much had the same thing. Jeff's a cool guy, blah, blah, blah. Jeff shouldn't have been out there. And it was a bad look and representation of TNA, total nonstop action. And I agree it was, and there was no way this match should have happened. Especially you saw, if Dutch Mantell saw Jeff prior to the match, sitting in the car, knowing he was drugged up, and the town knew he was drugged up, he shouldn't win the match. Poor management on that end. But other than that, guys, that's all I have regarding the situation. You guys in the locker room, you let me know in the live chat or playback, what do you think of this whole situation of Jeff Hardy versus Sting? Why did TNA World Championship match go Awry? What led to that? Is there anything that you want to add or your input regarding the whole thing? I greatly appreciate that. Soon two videos will pop up. One will be how was Liv Morgan not nervous during arrest? The second video is why Lita is frustrated with the drama. Until then, it is OUT.